Hello friends, I am Professor Rajesh Tayal and today I am going to talk about a new paper, that is Secretarial Audit, Compliance Management and Due Diligence. Okay, so the new paper, that is Secretarial Audit, Compliance Management, and then comes Due Diligence. Actually, this paper is only about compliance management because secretarial audit is a part of that only. And then due diligence, this is not required in regular courts. Once in a while, this is needed. So, mainly this paper is about compliance management. Okay. So let us see one by one what is compliance management, what is secretarial audit, what is due diligence, and mainly we'll talk about compliance management. And any organization having a robust compliance management system, what is the benefit of that? That is also important for us to learn. So this lecture is only for introduction about the subject. And this is based on study material as per new syllabus. So whether it is old syllabus or new syllabus, subject will remain same, it doesn't make a difference. But I'm telling you that this is based on study material of new syllabus, so that when you are referring, you can download that material and refer to it. Okay. So let me tell you about what is compliance management. So compliance management. What is that? In nutshell, I can simply tell you compliance management means how to ensure proper compliance with all applicable laws. How to ensure proper compliance with all the applicable laws. And if that can be managed, that is compliance management. Now the question is, compliance means what? Compliance means what? So compliance means adhering to law, or you can say fulfilling requirements of law. What is the compliance required, what the law required, what how you should do, when you should do, and whether it is done or not, and what you have done after that. So when all that has been done, fulfilling requirements of law, that is called a compliance with the law. But whether you complied with that or not, and whether compliance is proper or not, for that some more things are required. Okay, so compliance management simply means ensuring compliance with all the applicable laws, and compliance means adhering to law or fulfilling requirements of the law. Now, you already know what is the meaning of the word law, but still I would like to give you a brief what the law means. So, laws This is not limited to any enactment like Companies Act 2013. When I say compliance with the company law, I'm not saying only about Companies Act. I'm also talking about applicable rules, regulations, schedules, notifications, orders, notices, judicial decisions, all these taken together, this is referred as law, right? So prima facie, what you understand law? It is the Companies Act. No, Companies Act is only one law. There are thousands of other things. And you have already studied Companies Act. You know how many rules and regulations are there, how many notifications are there, schedules are there, orders, notices are always there. So compliance with all of them, then that will be referred as compliance management as far as Companies Act is concerned. Okay, so compliance management is how to ensure compliance with applicable laws. Okay, now step by step I'll come again. Now, what is secretarial audit? Actually, I told you that this automatically covers compliance secretarial audit also. But let me brief you once again. Secretarial audit. This is verification of compliance. So this is one step ahead of this. So this, when the compliance is internal, audit is external. Audit is carried out by an independent external professional. He will ensure, he will verify the document and confirm whether compliance has been proper or not. So compliance is one part, proper compliance is another part. And after compliance, whether proper reporting has been there or not, internally reporting as well as external reporting. So this will be carried out by in the course of secretarial audit. But the question is, as far as compliance management is concerned, this is applicable to every organization. But where secretarial audit is required, the need for secretarial audit, this arises from section 204 of the Companies Act, and this is also referred under section 134, where the secretarial audit is required. So secretarial audit is required only in case of public companies, never in private companies. So for a private company, it is a voluntary exercise. For a public company, it is compulsory in certain cases. These public companies, we can divide in two parts. If it is a listed company, compliance is, or the secretarial audit is always required. Unlisted company, this we have to see. So in case of unlisted, again you can divide that in two parts. It is having paid up capital of rupees 50 crores, or it is having turnover of rupees 250 crores. In these two cases, listed companies as well as unlisted public companies where the paid up capital is 50 crores or more, or turnover of 250 crores or more, this is compulsory. Other public companies, not compulsory. It is purely voluntary. And if you ask me as a professional, I will certainly advise that this should be done. even if it is unlisted, even if it is a smaller company, because in long run, if you really, really want to grow in business, if you have big plans to grow the business of the company, this is compulsory, because there are multiple advantages associated with the compliance management. I'll explain a little more, right? So, what are the advantages associated with the compliance management? Very, very important benefits. One very simple benefit that anybody can point out, that is number one, avoidance of penalties and other consequences. Because penalties do not come directly, those are always associated with number of things: inspection, investigation, notice, representation, this and that. So many things are there. So, avoidance of penalties and this. This is where a smaller thing. The next thing is very, very important. This is social image. Compare the image of companies like TCS or all Tata companies in comparison to any other ordinary company. Tata companies are always referred with respect, because they will not take even a smallest chance in compliance. Even if it is found out that there is a non-compliance, even the government officers are doubtful whether it is true in case of a Tata company. I'll give you one example. When FERA was there was some violation under FERA by one of the Tata companies. Even department was not even aware of that there is a violation. The chairman of Tata Group, Mr. Ratan Tata, he came forward, wrote a letter to RBI that this is a violation of this and this provision of FERA that has been committed, and we are ready for being punished for this. That kind of reputation is created by proper legal compliances. You know what was the reply? Reply was, this is excused, kindly ensure this is not repeated again. So this kind of reputation is created. Social image, reputation. Then this helps in brand building. So today, if you ask which are the most respected companies in India, whatever companies you list, but the reason will be only this: they have not been defaulter under any law at any point of time, right? Then this ensures complete transparency. Any entrepreneur who does not want to show everything, he will try to do, he will try to play some gimmicks with the books. But when the proper compliance is there, complete transparency is there, nobody is bothered about anything. So complete transparency, avoidance of penalties, social image, reputation, brand building, this is not possible otherwise at any cost. Imagine one company which is punished regularly for one or other laws. Quite possible its business is growing regularly, but still it will not have that kind of social image. It will not have that kind of brand as compared to another company which will not be growing at the same pace, but the reputation will be very, very different. So proper compliance management is very, very crucial for you as a company secretary, whether you are in employment or you are practicing independently. So this is something very, very relevant. May not be relevant for the purpose of exam, but in future, this is going to be something very, very important, right? Then comes due diligence. So due diligence is again something similar to audit, not exactly audit, usually carried out by outsider, and that outsider is likely to have some transactions with the company, and that may be a bigger huge transaction, maybe merger, maybe amalgamation, maybe takeover, maybe some investment, maybe something bigger than that. So before any decision is taken by the outsider in terms of making any investment in the company, in terms of merger or amalgamation or takeover, etc., etc., they would like to carry out a due diligence activity. So when the due diligence is done, every document will be examined by an independent person, irrespective of that it has already been audited, just to ensure that there has been a proper compliance with all the applicable laws. So why? Transparency, brand building. So when the due diligence is done, no problem will arise if you have a proper compliance management system. So that's why I told you the most important thing is compliance management, right? Now something more about compliance management. What is required in compliance management? Once again, put a title: compliance management. The first step required in compliance management is preparing a chart. Chart of what? Chart of all applicable laws. Now, when you prepare a chart, just to give you an idea, these are common laws. Whenever there is a business, certain laws are always applicable, and then there are specific laws. In common, say for example, income tax, GST, Companies Act. In specific, say for example, this may be a bank, so this is a Banking Regulation Act, right? Other laws may also be applicable, right? So here I've given only one example. And when you have listed down all the laws applicable, right? Because here we have mentioned only Banking Regulation Act. By chance, if it is running a factory, then labor laws are there, Factories Act is there, n number of laws will be applicable. Then the next thing will be about compliance. What is the compliance required, and when the compliance is required? What and when? So under the Companies Act, you can understand what are the compliances required. Board meeting, common requirement. Annual general meeting, annual requirement. In the board meeting, there are certain specific requirements. In relation to specific resolutions, specific requirements. After the AGM, what are the requirements? Okay, so that you can understand that what are the compliances required under that law. Say for example, annual general meeting you are talking about, whether the day, date, time for the AGM is approved by the board, whether notice was sent in time or not, right? So here you can say approval by the board, notice, forwarding, day, time, place, etc., etc. So all that you can done. When that should be done? When the board meeting is required for approval of the AGM, when the notice should be approved by the board, etc. So everything is required to be listed down here. So what is the compliance required and when the compliance is to be done? So this is the first part in the compliance management system. Prepare a chart of all the laws applicable to the organization, and then we are going to see further who's going to comply with that. That is something subsequently. First of all, get to know what are the laws applicable. Okay, now once the chart is prepared, then number two comes task force. Task force means person or team responsible for compliance. So maybe as a company secretary, you are sitting in the corporate office and the labor laws are applicable in the factory. As a company secretary, you cannot take responsibility to comply with the labor laws in the factory. Certainly, the factory manager has to be made responsible. You cannot take a responsibility even while sitting in the corporate office for compliance with the accounting standards. That is the responsibility of the CFO. Delegate. Fix it who will be responsible for compliance of which of the provisions of laws. Then comes training of those people. Usually, people placed in those positions are already aware of the compliances, but still, training cannot be removed. Then, training, when you put the question of training, then the repetition of the revision has to be there. Training and then refresher trainings. So, maybe when the compliances are regular, once in 6 months, training is good enough. But when compliances are not in the regular course, once in a while need comes, you decide when the training refresher courses should be done. But the training is compulsory because manpower also keeps on changing, requirements of law also keeps on changing. So training is a very, very essential part of the compliance management. And then comes updation or amendments. How this team or this person will ensure that all updates and amendments are informed to him, or how he will keep himself updated with all the latest amendments in law. This is also very, very important. So decide a task force. That once you have decided which are the laws applicable, then the next thing comes the task force who will be responsible for compliance with what? Training, updation. Then comes number three, SOPs, standard operational procedures. So for compliances, quite possible that somebody is made responsible for compliance with certain laws. He is not aware of law at all, but he knows the standard procedure to be followed. So when he follows the standard procedure, compliance is automatically there. Right. So when you prepare SOPs, these are flexible as well as strict both. So you can say these are semi-flexible. So those will be amended or changed only when there is a change in law. Otherwise, nobody is authorized to make a change in the standard procedure which is set out. Because as long as this is being complied with, there will not be any violation. And when the violation is not there, you can go and sleep coolly at home. You means anybody who is responsible for compliances. So standards of procedures are required to be set therein. Then number 4, this comes reporting. If laws are applicable, you are required to comply with law. Certainly some reporting is required. Now this reporting has to be internal as well as external both. Internal reporting: when, how, to whom. When the reporting should be done, to whom the reporting is required to be done, how the reporting is required to be done. Similarly, for external also, all the things are required. Now, you can relate with passing of a special resolution in the general meeting. What is the compliance required? Whenever there is a special resolution, a copy of that is required to be filed for registration within 30 days after the date of AGM. Internal, no further communication, but you have to ensure that this has been recorded in the minutes book and then it is being filed. So that you will mention that way, that there are a special resolution internally that has been recorded in the minute, that has been signed by the chairman, externally that has been filed with the ROC, when and where everything is going to be done here. Okay, so reporting concept is very, very important. And then comes number 5, audit. So audit is a specialized activity by an outsider who is independent, not in employment with the company. He will carry out a verification of all the documents and check that there is no non-compliance, there is no violation. But the question is, various types of audits are there. Here we are talking about compliance audit. As far as books of accounts are concerned, accounting standards have to be followed. Proper format of the annual accounts, that is financial statements, have to be there. Under the Companies Act, number of compliances are there, right? So when the audit is done, this is done by an outside agency, and the purpose is finding whether there is any non-compliance or not. But the question is whether this is an annual feature or this is a regular feature. Even though law requires it to be done on annual basis or once in 2 years or once in 6 months, forget that. This has to be a ongoing process. Suppose today some secretarial auditor comes to your office and he tells you that these have been 5 non-compliance in the last month and the time for compliance is already over. Means you have already invited penalties. Or if he tells you after 1 year that the last year this was a non-compliance, heavy penalties. So when the compliance should be done? Within the time limit available. So therefore, though the audit may be a long-term process, maybe annual, maybe once in 6 months, and in certain cases maybe once in 2 years, but this has to be a regular activity. So in the compliance management, there are 5 steps involved. Number 1, charting of all the applicable laws, all the compliances required, when the compliances are required. Number 2, task force. Those are listed here. Task force means either individual or a team responsible for compliance of which of the laws, then the training, then updation, then comes the preparation of standard procedures, then reporting of the compliance, internal reporting, external reporting, then audit. All this is a part of compliance management. Okay. What is the benefit of compliance management? I have already told you. Due diligence, this is something done by outsider but in specific events. So they would like to verify maximum possible documents to ensure proper compliances, and there has to be a transparency. Now something more about secretarial audit. So secretarial audit Statutory provisions, those you are already aware of under section 204 and 134. Then there will be a question of appointment, how the person is to be appointed. In subsequent chapters, in any case, I'm going to cover up in detail, but just to give you an information. Then, scope. Now, scope of secretarial audit is not limited to Companies Act only. Companies Act is certainly prime. Companies Act, all the relevant rules and regulations and forms, that is the basic. Number two, listing requirements. If the company is a listed company, then stock exchange requirements are there. Number three, SEBI regulations, SEBI Act. Number four, FEMA. At least these three necessarily or essentially a part of secretarial audit. So, as a company secretary, either in profession or in employment, you have to have extraordinary command over these three things: Companies Act, listing requirements, as well as SEBI Act plus SEBI regulations. SEBI is not one thing only. SEBI Act is a small part, but number of regulations laid down by SEBI. So whether you are working for a company or a bank or financial institution, or maybe in the mutual fund or in relation to stock market, in any case, these three things are necessarily required. Okay, so this is a part of secretarial audit in the companies where this is required, that we have already discussed. So either it is a listed company or unlisted public company where the paid up capital is 50 crores or more, or turnover is 250 crores or more. Now see, this paper is about secretarial audit, compliance management and due diligence. This paper is about. So first of all, secretarial audit. In secretarial audit, where and what is the scope, and in between we can write statutory provisions pertaining to secretarial audit. Next part is compliance management, and then comes due diligence. Now, compliance management, this itself is having number of parts. Number one, chart. Number two, task force. Number three, SOPs. Number 4, reporting. And then number 5 comes audit. Right? In task force, persons training, SOPs, approval and changes, reporting, external, internal, audit under various laws. Right? So here you can just put three names: income tax audit, then statutory audit, then GST audit, secretarial audit. Number of audits are there. And then comes due diligence. So due diligence, usually this is required in case of investments, public issues, private placements, merger, amalgamation, takeover. These are few examples. And what are the benefits of all this? Brand. Number 2, reputation. Number 3, transparency. Number 4, no penalties. And ultimately, all that resulting into higher valuation in every respect. So, friend, this is just the introduction about this paper. And I told you the chapter number 1, as per new syllabus. There are very few things in relation to exam as far as this chapter is concerned, but with this you get to know what the chapter, what the paper is. In the next video, I'll take up chapter number 2, and for that you will have to have a printout from the study material chapter number 2. In the next lecture, I'll talk about that. Thank you.